So it happened again. Happened again. I couldn't believe it. I thought I'd been doing I don't want to say good, because good would suggest normalcy, and I certainly wouldn't define anything about my sleep habits as normal at any point in, well, I was about to say at any point in my adult life, which that's bullshit. At any point in my life past about third grade or so, like I'm talking, we're going back to the 1990s. We're going back to like when the most recent video game console was like the Sega Genesis, right? That's about how long my sleep schedule has been a disaster. Yeah, it happened again last night. I thought I'd been doing a little bit better, but and all the things applied that should have led to a good night's sleep. Namely, I had not slept that much the night before. I was running on about 5 or 6 hours of sleep for a fairly full day. I'd worked out. I'd eaten neither too much nor too little, just enough to kind of eliminate hunger while not being overly full. I'd been awake for, I don't know, 16 hours or so. I'd been awake the proper amount of time, 16, 17 hours. And on top of all that, here's the here's just the salt in the wound, or the extra comic twist. I took a ZzzQuil, or not ZzzQuil. I don't take ZzzQuil. I take the like $2 cheaper Equate sleep aid store brand that has the exact same active ingredient, so it's functionally ZzzQuil. It was dark. It was quiet. I'd taken my sleep aid, had a relatively physically active day, and I just laid there fucking awake until like 3 a.m. Like I got in bed like at 11, intending to try to knock myself. Like I'd taken the ZzzQuil, or the ZzzQuil equivalent, like at like 9:30, because it usually takes about an hour to an hour and a half to kick in. Settled down for the good old sleep time at like 11, intending to get a good night's sleep, and then just laid there awake for just hour. And I laid there awake for long enough to watch the Return of the King extended edition DVD if I wanted to. Let me put it that way. So yeah, it fucking happened again. I couldn't believe it. It's so frustrating, because then you're laying there in bed starting to get angry. And let me tell you, if there's one emotion that's not conducive to like quality restful sleep, it is anger. And just then the longer the night goes on, the angrier I start to get. And I'm like of a belief that I feel like ZzzQuil, or the equivalent, I don't feel like it truly like puts you under for 8 hours. I feel like what it does, I feel like it has like a window of like a couple hours where like it works, and then I feel myself being a little drowsier. And that's intended to knock you out. Then I feel like a Mother Nature takes over from there. If there's any sleep scientists listening to this, if they want to say I'm wrong, I don't care. I swear that I'm right, because any time that I take the ZzzQuil and it doesn't knock me out in the time it's supposed to, then I swear it just becomes useless, and I'm just up all night. And that's what happened last night. Just laid there awake until like fucking like 3:30 or something like that. Then fell asleep long enough to have to get up at fucking like 6. So now I'm operating on functionally no sleep, and drinking like coffee and Monster Energy drinks. So yeah, and then I just know that I mean, theoretically, I should, because I'm operating on no sleep, be able to fall asleep better tonight. I'm hoping so, because the last thing I need is for everything to just be thrown off, because when my sleep schedule gets thrown off, it can be thrown off for like a month. Like, that's why things became so disastrous last year, that I was posting video after video after video in the fall about my insomnia issues, because I was going on like, there was like close to like a quarter of a year or a third of a year where I was just passing out and waking up and being half like awake and drowsy, and like a near a quarter of a year was blown on just like terrible insomnia issues and feeling like a zombie all the time. So I'm hoping that this one night was a fluke, and I can kind of do a little better this time, because the last thing I need is for tons of issues. But yeah, this made me start to think about something I heard about called a delayed sleep phase disorder. And I'm not generally inclined to do the WebMD thing where I look up one or two symptoms and decide, oh yeah, it turns out I do have cancer. I don't spend a lot. I'm not a natural hypochondriac. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about disease. Heck, if I ever do come down with a terrible disease, I probably won't notice it until it's too late. So maybe I should be more of a hypochondriac. But this one, delayed sleep phase disorder, is one that's always jumped out at me as like yeah, that sounds like what I have. Which is to say that the times in my life that I've actually gotten like restful and functional sleep that's worked and been at least like 7 hours, if not 8 hours, has generally always been between like 5 a.m. and noon, you know, like anytime in school, like during summer break. That's what my sleep schedule would always default to. And I don't mean like gradually over the course of months it would default to this. I mean within like 48 hours, like a long weekend, I could default to this. Just any opportunity at all. And I feel like if I go to bed around like the not quite when the sun is coming out, but just at kind of at the cusp of it, when maybe the first whispering slivers of like the darkest blue or kind of edging, just the tiniest little ribbons of it going above the horizon. That's like when I feel like my brain sends the signal like you can pass out now. And anytime I try to fight that, it's difficult. So let's look at this on Wikipedia. I'm on, and it specifically says at the top not to be confused with insomnia, which is interesting because I've always just defined myself as an insomniac, but it's maybe not necessarily true because like I said, if I'm operating in certain like hours that don't tend to work with normal society, I often can sleep a good like 6 or 7 hours. But anyway, so it says delayed sleep phase disorder, more often known as delayed sleep phase syndrome. Well, if it's more often known as that, why isn't the article called that? But whatever. Is a delaying of a person's circadian rhythm biological clock compared to those of societal norms. The disorder affects the timing of biological rhythms, including sleep, peak period of alertness, core body temperature, and hormonal cycles. And yeah, that does sound like me. Like my peak period of alertness was especially a problem like in like school, like in high school. Having to go because like I was functionally useless in like all classes, up to like noon or even up to like 1 p.m. if I hadn't slept well the night before, which is basically all nights in high school, because I was just drowsy, just going in and out of consciousness, unless something kept me physically alert, like on, I was in the band or, playing a clarinet badly. And, you can't fall asleep in the chair while you're doing that. But, any other time, and, it caused a lot of problems. Diagnosis of this disorder is currently a point of contention among specialists of sleep disorders. Insomnia-related disorders can present significantly differently between patients, and circadian rhythm disorders and melatonin-related disorders are not well understood by modern medical science. And yeah, I've heard this, that even like people who think they have a DSPD like me, when they go to like sleep studies, like the sleep study tells them like, okay, now go to bed at 10 so we can study you. It's like, no, are you not getting what I'm trying to tell you? I physically can't. I will lay awake here for 5 hours. Do you not get it? So yeah, this I believe that this is not well understood. I mean, I've never spoken to anyone else I've never spoken to one person in real life who's identified as having this to the same degree I have. Like some people might say like, I'm a night owl. I stay up till midnight. And I'm like, well, you're not a night owl compared to me then. Yeah, we're not talking about the same thing. If you get sleepy around midnight, we're not talking about the same thing at all. Completely different situations. So yeah, I believe it's not well understood that like my midnight is your like 6 p.m. like mentally, if I'm fully rested and you're fully rested, like yet it appears intimately implicated in human sleep-wake systems. Evidence for the plasticity of human circadian rhythm cycles has been provided by multiple studies. I mean, I can provide it with my own life. I mean, it's like that's the evidence. In one example, dozens of volunteers spent many months underground in a French cave while researchers monitored their periods of waking and sleeping. That's an interesting experiment. The results found significant divergence between individuals, with most participants settling upon a rhythm of 30 plus or minus 4 hours. Okay. Researchers have speculated that the lack of exposure to natural sunrise-sunset cycles relates many of the symptoms of these circadian disorders to modern habits of humans spending extended periods indoors without sunlight exposure and with artificial light. And I don't know, I'm not sure that I buy that it has anything to do with the sun or light for me, because like I said, just last night I was in the dark. I turned the lights out. It was quiet, and yeah, if it was like a dark related thing, I should have been able to pass out in sooner than like the 4 to 5 hours it took me. Symptom management may be possible with therapeutic drugs, blah, 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 as well as regular outdoor exercise. I do take ZQL and I do exercise though, so... And like I said, maybe it has worked because like I said in a recent video, I've been kind of able to sleep at okay hours now and then, but I just hate that it has to be so like regulated with really specific cycles and medicine and exercise, managing every bodily function. There may be a genetic component to the syndrome. Yeah, I mean, no one taught me this. It's not a learned thing. I guarantee you that back in, the mid 90s and the late 90s, if I could have, would have been easier to go to school, to go to even elementary school and much less junior high if I could have slept more. No one taught me to do this. Like, no one else in my family has this. DSPD was first formally described in 1891, blah, blah, blah. Is responsible for 7 to 13% of patient complaints with chronic insomnia. So that's kind of rare, but it's not like, 0.7%. It's reasonable. It's not a statistically negligible percentage. However, since many doctors are unfamiliar with the condition, it goes untreated or is treated inappropriately. It's often misdiagnosed as primary insomnia or a psychiatric condition. Okay. And as I just said, I believe that many are unfamiliar with it because I've spoken to plenty of people in my life. I've never spoken to anyone with this problem to this extent that I have it. I mean, even when I was in college, stereotypically college students stay up late partying, but I had tons of times with all my roommates were sound asleep for 4 to 5 hours before I was. And my whole life, I've never known anyone who operates in such a bizarre natural schedule, sticking to their own kind of internal rhythms as I have, so I believe it's not well understood. Delayed sleep phase disorder can be treated or helped in some cases by careful daily sleep practices. Morning light therapy, evening dark therapy. I don't want to do that shit. Earlier exercise and meal times. That's interesting because I actually tend to do kind of later meal times sometimes, like what's like the classic meal time for society is like 6 p.m. I'm more of like an 8 p.m. Even a 9 p.m. Dinner time person sometimes. Medications such as blah, 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 blah. Melatonin. At its most severe and inflexible, DSPD is a disability, which I believe because it's made every aspect of my life more difficult from, school and work, obviously, but even like quote unquote leisure activities, like if there's like a gathering of some sort or some sort of a leisure activity that's, at 10 a.m., it's almost assured that I'm not going to be doing that well at it. I'm going to be kind of drowsy and maybe not enjoying myself particularly. It's been a debilitating in all parts of life. A chief difficulty treating DSPD is maintaining an earlier schedule after it has been established, as patient's body has a strong tendency to reset the sleeping schedule to its intrinsic late times. Yes, that's absolutely correct. As I said, if I don't try to carefully regulate my sleep schedule with forcing myself to get up early so I've been awake for long enough at nighttime would be the number one thing, but also like medication, exercise, like they mentioned, blah, 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 blah. If I don't do that stuff for literally one day, I mean, I say like people say my sleep schedule will drift, in one direction, kind of with the implication that it takes days or weeks or months. It can take one day. 2 days is the absolute most, which is how it always happened in high school. And yeah, I'm right back to like a 5 a.m. to noon being like my preferred sleep schedule. It does not take long to slip back into it. It has to be maintained every single day, like muscles that have to be worked out every single day or they'll atrophy. My sleep schedule will atrophy back to like a 5 a.m. natural falling asleep time if I don't work on it. Basically, if I don't spend conscious thought and effort and medication working towards it 365 days a year, basically. So yeah, that is true. People with DSPD may improve their quality of life by choosing careers that allow late sleeping times rather than force themselves to follow a 9-to-5 work schedule. Yeah, that's true. That's true. The 9-to-5 is a disaster for me. That's why I think maybe that's part of why I find the idea of being a professional novelist appealing, because then I could you maybe get up at noon. Maybe try to push it a little bit. Maybe get up at 11. Sleep like 4 to 11. Work from like noon to 5 or something, noon to 6. Something like that. That idea does appeal to me. And then kind of like stay up until maybe spend a couple hours editing, a book or a YouTube video. Then stay up until 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning. Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. I'm sure that's not what they're kind of talking about here. What they're talking about more is like a, night watchman, the graveyard shift, like a hospital or something like that. And I've thought about that. Like, what if I just became a night watchman sitting in like a toll booth or something like that for like 8 hours, just interacting with a few people an hour, just getting paid to like sit there. maybe it's worth looking into. I could work on editing novels in that time. So I'd consider it, because other people might think that is really difficult and throws them off, but I think I would do pretty well at it. I mean, by like 6 or a.m. or so, I would definitely be getting a little sleepy. But, maybe a job that goes to like 8 or 9 p.m. to like 4 a.m. might work well. Might be something worth looking into. People with delayed sleep phase disorder generally fall asleep some hours after midnight and have difficulty waking up in the morning. That's correct. Can confirm. Can confirm. Affected people often report that while they do not get to sleep until the next morning, they do fall asleep around the same time every day, and that's true. Like I said, 5 a.m. is kind of what my body tends to call for, and that's been consistent. That's not like a recent thing. That's been the case for over 20 years now, and I'm 37 for context to anyone who doesn't know. Unless they have another sleep disorder such as sleep apnea in addition to DSPD, patients can sleep well and have a normal need for sleep. Okay. However, they find it difficult to wake up in time for a typical school or work day. Can confirm. I remember one time in high school, like a junior or senior year, my parents like went out of town for a few days or something like that, and I just stayed at home by myself. And I think I woke up and went to school late every day in that time frame. Every day. It was the only times there was just straight up late to high school, just straight up I missed a period was those times. And especially in college, it was terrible. It was before we had alarms on your phone, but I would set like just a chunky, the type of alarm that's on a bedstand or on the floor next to the mattress on the floor that I slept on in college. And I would even plug the alarm clock on the other side of the room, so it would physically force me to get up and walk over to it. And sometimes still I would wake up having woken up at 8 a.m. when the alarm went off, having walked over to it, turned it off, and gone back to the bed and fallen back asleep with no memory whatsoever of having done so. None. Zero memory of having done so. And this I would like get multiple alarm clocks and set multiple alarms on each of them, and it would still fail to wake me up in the morning. The only time I've been able to wake up in the morning in recent years is because I have an app on my phone called Alarmy, I think it's called, that you can set things on it to force you to like either shake the phone really hard for like a couple of minutes to wake yourself up, or like do math problems or else the alarm will keep going louder and louder until you solve all the math problems or something like that. Yeah, it's very, very difficult. So this next sentence is interesting. It says, if they are allowed to follow their own sleep schedules, for example, sleeping from 4 a.m. to 1 p.m., and that's like almost the example I gave. I think I said, I don't know, that would be, 9 hours of sleep? That's a lot. I don't need that much sleep, but I said like 5 to noon, so I tucked it in 1 hour in either direction from their example. Their sleep is improved and they may not experience excessive daytime sleepiness, which I see as blue. It has its own link. And excessive daytime sleepiness, yes, I can relate to that. That is something I've dealt with almost every day I've been alive for the last, 20 some odd years. Yeah, I can definitely, not 20 some odd years, getting close to 30 years now. Cause like I said, this goes back to elementary school. This goes back to when I was 5-6 years old. I remember struggling mightily to wake up for school. So yeah, attempting to force oneself into daytime society schedule with DSPD has been compared to consistently living with jet lag. DSPD has been called social jet lag. Yeah, social, professional, in terms of personal goals. I've been trying to write a novel for a long time, and it's something that's very hard to do, for me at least. Maybe some people are better at it than me, but for me, it's hard to do unless I'm almost 100% sharp. I can't be sitting in front of a computer, drifting, my eyes getting heavy, my head swaying, that sort of about to fall asleep thing. I can't be doing that and coming up with good prose and dialogue at the same time. It is not possible. It is not possible. So yeah, it's more than a social jet lag would be the least of my problems. I'm not too concerned about that because I'm not that much of a social butterfly. I'm very introverted. I'm more not even that concerned about professional jet lag because I've never had a job that I cared about in my life. More I want to be more awake so I can work on some of the things I care about, So yeah, it's jet lag is a good comparison though. Comorbidities, depression. In the DSPD cases reported in the literature, about half of the patients have had clinical depression or other psychological problems, about the same proportion as among patients with chronic insomnia. Let's see. Although some degree of psychopathology is present in about half of adult patients, there appears to be no particular and blah, blah, blah. Direct neurochemical relationship between sleep mechanisms and depression is another possibility. I can believe that. Being constantly tired does make you feel depressed. It's conceivable that DSPD has a role in causing depression because it can be a stressful and misunderstood disorder. 2008 study found no association of bipolar disorder. Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, seek treatment for both problems. Nah. Vitamin D deficiency. Exposure to sunlight. Yeah, anyone who does not get enough sunlight exposure, 20 to 30 minutes 3 times a week, even I get that much, so. Yeah, attention deficit, high proportion, okay, I can believe that. Overweight, no problem there, I'm a healthy body weight. OCD, people with OCD have diagnosis with DSPD at a higher rate than the general public. Okay, that's kind of interesting because I maybe have a little bit of that going on too. That would be a topic for a whole different video, and I wouldn't even know exactly what the angle of talking about it then. Like, I tend to wash my hands a lot. I tend to like things to be in certain places. You know, I like to like fold up blankets nicely and stuff. But, you know, that's, if it's related, I'm not too concerned about it because I've never worried about OCD being debilitating in my life the way that like the sleep issues are in any way. Head injury? Nah, not really. Mechanism. DSPD is a disorder of the body's timing system, the biological clock. Individuals might have an unusually long circadian cycle, reduced responses to the resetting effect of daylight in the body clock, respond to delaying effects of evening light, too little, the advancing of light earlier in the day, light, body core temperature, goes beyond reduced, yeah. Quality of sleep may be substantially poorer, even when bedtimes and wake times are self-selected. I don't know. A DSPD subject exhibited an average sleep onset latency twice of that of 3 control subjects, twice the amount of wakefulness after sleep onset as control subjects, resulting in significantly poorer sleep efficiency. I can believe that, but I certainly feel better, even if the quality of sleep I get when I'm allowed to sleep when my brain really wants to isn't as good as other people's natural sleep. It's still better than, 2 hours of shitty sleep. Sleep inertia. People with normal circadian rhythms can generally fall asleep quickly at night if they slept too little the night before. Falling asleep earlier will in turn automatically help to advance their circadian rhythm clocks due to decreased light exposure in the evening. In contrast, people with DSPD have difficulty falling asleep before their usual sleep time, even if they are sleep deprived. Okay, so that's what I talked about at the beginning of this little conversation here. Like, even if I've only gotten a few hours of sleep the night before, sometimes it doesn't make any difference, and I'm still awake till the middle of the night. Sleep deprivation does not reset the circadian clock of DSPD patients as it does in normal people. Okay, so that tracks and seems believable. People with the disorder who try to live a normal schedule cannot fall asleep at a reasonable hour and have extreme difficulty waking because their biological clocks are not in phase with that schedule. Non-DSPD people who do not adjust well to being working a night shift have similar symptoms, which, I've heard people say that the graveyard shift is hell, but I don't think it would be for me. Genetic factors, syndrome usually develops in early childhood or adolescence. Okay, that tracks. I said it was about 9 or 10 years old that this started. DSPD is a lifelong condition. Great. The best estimate of prevalence among adults is 0.13 to 0.17%, or 1 in 600 people. Wow, finally I won a lottery. I got a 1 in 600% of the portion of the population. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. DSPD tends to run in families, not as far as I know. Not my parents anyway. They sleep normal hours. Growing body of evidence suggests the problem is associated with the HPER3 gene. Okay, well, I'll just give me some tweezers and I'll pluck that gene on out. No problem. People who have a circadian rhythm longer than 24 hours now. DSPD is diagnosed by clinical interview. I don't need it to be diagnosed. If it exists, I know I have it. I have decades of evidence. Definition. Major feature of these disorders is a misalignment between patient's sleep-wake pattern and the pattern desired or regarded as societal norm. The underlying problem is the patient cannot sleep when sleep is desired, needed, or expected. Minor updates in the diagnostic criteria for delayed sleep phase disorder are Intractable delay in the phase of major sleep period occurs in relation to the desired time. That just seems like restating what's already heard. Restating what I've already read. When not required to maintain a strict schedule, patients exhibit improved sleep quality and duration for their age and maintain a delayed sleep phase of entrainment to local time. Okay, that sounds like what I was talking about. Patients have little or no difficulty in maintaining sleep once sleep has begun. That's iffy, even when I can still sometimes wake up after like 4 hours, but patients have relatively severe to absolute inability to advance the sleep phase to earlier hours by enforcing conventional sleep and wake times. Yeah, that seems like, again, restating the same thing. Sleep-wake logs or monitoring for at least 2 weeks documenting consistent habitual pattern of sleep onsets, usually later than 2 a.m. and lengthy sleeps. Okay. Well, I don't know about lengthy sleeps. Like I said, I usually don't even sleep 8 hours, even if I have the opportunity to do so. Occasional non-circadian days may occur. Sleep is skipped for an entire day or night, followed by a sleep period lasting 12 to 18 hours. Maybe that's happened once or twice, but not a regular thing. Symptoms do not meet the criteria for any other sleep disorder. If one of the following laboratory methods is used to demonstrate significant delay in the timing of habitual sleep period. Okay, we're kind of restating the same thing yet again. Some people with the condition adapt their lives to delayed sleep phase, avoiding morning business hours as much as possible. Yep, I have worked hard to do so during college in particular. I never got classes that started, before 8 at the earliest, ideally afternoon. And people are like, because you're partying and you're hungover. Like, nope, that's not it. Mild is 2-hour delay. No. Moderate, 3 hours. Severe, 4 hours. Yeah, we're at severe levels. Some features which distinguish it from other sleep disorders are people have a normal ability to sleep during the morning and sometimes the afternoon as well. Fall asleep at more or less the same time every night. Usually sleep well and they follow their sleep schedule. Okay, we're restating the same stuff again. Often people with DSPD manage only a few hours of sleep per night during the working week, then compensate by sleeping until the afternoon on weekends. Yeah, I might have been there. May give them release, but may perpetuate the late sleep phase. Yep. People can be called night owls. And yeah, technically true, but then again, I've heard people say they're night owls because they stay up till 12:30, and I'm like, no, that's not really it. Let's see, they feel best and most creative in the evening at night. Yeah. Cannot force themselves to sleep early. They may toss and turn for hours in bed. Yep, that was me just about 12 hours ago. I was recording this. Sometimes not sleep at all before reporting to work or school. Less extreme, more flexible night owls are within the normal chronotype spectrum. By the time most who have DSPD sleep medical help, they usually have tried many times to change their sleeping schedule. Failed tactics may include maintaining proper sleep hygiene, relaxation techniques, early bedtimes, hypnosis. No, I don't. Alcohol. No, I don't do that. Sleeping pills. I don't do pills, but like I said, I do the ZQL. Dull reading. Yeah, that's a good one. Read a math textbook. Home remedies. Sedatives may make them feel tired or relaxed, but fail to induce sleep. Ask family members to help wake them up in the morning. Yeah, or I've used multiple alarm clocks. There we go. I was just talking about that. Current formal name is delayed sleep-wake phase disorder. Earlier names include delayed sleep phase disorder, delayed sleep phase syndrome, and circadian rhythm sleep disorder. Delayed sleep phase type. Treatment, a set of manageable techniques, is specific to DSPD. It is different from a treatment of insomnia. Recognize the patient's ability to sleep well in their own schedules while addressing the timing problem. Success may be partial. Yep, I can confirm that. It seems pretty accurate. For example, a patient who normally awakens at noon may only attain a wake time of 10 or 10:30 with treatment and follow-up. Being consistent with the treatment is paramount. Yeah, I think that's probably pretty accurate. If I fall off for more than a day, then I'm pretty much screwed for a fairly long period of time. Before starting treatment, patients are asked to spend a week sleeping regularly without napping at the times when the patient is most comfortable. It is important for patients to start treatment well rested. One treatment is light therapy. I don't know, man. That seems like a bunch of woo. That seems like a bunch of junk science. I don't want to sunlight. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do any of that. That sounds like torture. That just sounds awful. For maintenance, patients must continue the treatment indefinitely. How fun. Some may reduce daily treatment to 15 minutes. Others may use a lamp. Light therapy. I don't want to do any of that. Darkness therapy. I don't want to. Phase-delayed chronotherapy is intended to reset the circadian clock by manipulating bedtimes. It consists of going to bed 2 or more hours later each day for several days until the desired... So yeah, I've done this, I think, in throughout life, tried to fall asleep at 5 a.m., then fall asleep at 7 a.m., then 9, advance it gradually until I get up to, the 11 p.m. fall asleep range, the midnight range. Well, the problem is that then it usually just keeps falling the other direction. And even then, even if I've spent like weeks working on trying to do it that way, it's still hard to maintain it for more than a few weeks beyond that. It usually just slips again. Earlier exercise and meal times. Okay, that's interesting. Should I maybe not be like eating dinner at like 8 o'clock? Should I be force feeding myself when I'm not really hungry at like 5? Yeah, if I do that, I probably won't end up eating as much, so I'll probably get even skinnier because I'm not really hungry at that time. Let's try this to read this. Aripiprazole, brand name Abilify, is an atypical antipsychotic that has been shown effective in treating, so it's a form of psychopathy now, to be effective in treating DSPD by advancing sleep onset, sleep midpoint, and sleep offset at relatively low doses. Okay. Melatonin. Yeah, I've tried that a few times, but I've not had any luck with it. It seems like the ZQL or the off-brand ZQL, the Equate Sleep Ed, works better for me than melatonin does. Let's see. Side effects may include disturbance, nightmares, daytime sleepiness, depression. Yeah, I wasn't planning on trying melatonin. A review found little difference between melatonin and placebo for most primary and secondary sleep disorders. Okay. Modafinil is a stimulant approved. Yeah. Vitamin B. Prognosis. Risk of relapse. Can confirm. I don't even need to read that to say that I can confirm whatever this is about to say. A strict schedule and good sleep hygiene are essential in maintaining any good effects of treatment. With treatment, some people with mild DSPD may sleep and function well with an earlier sleep schedule. Caffeine and other stimulant drugs may not be necessary and should be avoided. Well, I think they're probably necessary for the morning. In accordance, the chief difficulty treating DSPD is in maintaining an earlier sleep schedule if it has been established. Inevitable events in normal life, such as staying up late for a celebration or deadline or having to stay in bed with an illness, tend to reset the sleeping. Yeah, it doesn't need to. I guess I said I can confirm. I actually can't confirm. It doesn't need to be anything. No events need to be out of the ordinary. It could be completely normalist, the most normal day as possible. I can still just completely fall into like a 5 a.m. sleep schedule. Long-term success rates of treatment have seldom been evaluated, I guess because it only affects 1 in 600 people. So I guess they don't feel like they need to. One study of DSPD patients with an average sleep onset of about 3 a.m. See, that's early for me. An average waking time of about 11:30 a.m. Why these dudes sleeping so much? Was followed by questionnaires of subjects within a year. Good effect was seen during the 6-week treatment with a large daily dose of melatonin. That sounds pleasant. After ceasing melatonin use, over 90% had relapsed to pre-treatment sleeping patterns within the year. 29 reporting that the relapse occurred within 1 week. I think I would be part of that, 29%. Mild cases changed longer than severe cases. Well, if these people are going to bed at 3 a.m., then that's probably makes me a severe case, because 3 a.m. would be pretty good for me. Adaptation to late sleeping times. Working the evening or night shift or working at home makes DSPD less of an obstacle for some. Many of these people do not describe their pattern as a disorder. Well, I probably would have to. Some DSPD individuals nap, even taking naps. No, if I do that, it just throws the sleep schedule off a million times worse than ever. I've accidentally passed out during the day at times in my life, in particular if I'm running on almost no sleep. But I haven't intentionally taken a nap, like laid down and said, I'm going to nap I haven't intentionally done that in over a quarter century. I don't do that. DSPD friendly careers can include security work. Yeah, I said that. Entertainment industry. Okay. Hospitality work, theaters, hotels, bars, call center work, manufacturing, healthcare, emergency medicine, commercial cleaning, taxi driving, the media, freelance writing. Okay, that's kind of what I was talking about, writing novels, translation, IT work, medical. So that's not that limited. Careers that have an emphasis on early morning work hours, such as bakers, baristas, pilot crews, teachers. Yeah, teacher wouldn't be. Mail carriers, waste collection, farming can be difficult for people who naturally sleep later than is typical. Some careers can be suitable for both, such as truck drivers, law enforcement, nursing. And these workers are needed both very early in the morning and also very late at night. Some people are unable to adjust. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Americans with Disabilities Act. The impact on patients. By the time DSPD sufferers receive an accurate diagnosis, they have often been misdiagnosed or labeled as lazy or incompetent workers or students for years. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Misdiagnosis of circadian rhythm sleep disorders as psychiatric conditions cause considerable distress and lead to some patients being prescribed psychoactive drugs. For many patients, diagnosis of DSPD is a life-changing breakthrough. Well, I wouldn't go that far for me because I've been aware of this for a long time, and being aware of it hasn't really fixed anything. As DSPD is so little known and so misunderstood, peer support may be important. Like I said, I don't really have any peer support because certainly in my extent that I have it, like a 5 a.m. to like a noon natural sleep schedule, I know of no one else who has that disturbed a schedule. So I don't really have any peer support because I've never spoken to anyone who's quite as obliterated by this as me. People with DSPD who force themselves to follow a 9-to-5 workday are often not successful and may just develop psychological complaints such as sleepiness, fatigue, headache, decreased appetite, depressed mood, difficulty maintaining ordinary social lives. Well, I'm super introverted, so that doesn't matter that much to me. Some of them lose jobs or fail to attend school. Yeah, I never got fired from anything, but I've been late for stuff. It's like I said, I don't really care that much about the job stuff because I have no particular career ambitions in terms of working in the professional world, but in terms of working on stuff I care about, it's had a terribly negative impact. Epidemiology, there have been several studies attempting to estimate results vary. Particular issue is where to draw the line between extreme evening chronotypes and a clinical DSPD. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. Estimated the prevalence at 0.17%, already said that. Estimated prevalence at 0.13%. A somewhat higher prevalence of 0.7% was found in a 1995 study. Okay, that's interesting. That would be a little more than 1 out of every 200 people, which is still a pretty small minority, but it's not no one. Okay, look at a 2014 study of New Zealand adults found a prevalence of 1.5% to 8.9%. That 8.9 must be a pretty loose definition. Although I can't imagine that it has gotten worse, maybe in the age of cell phones, but or maybe the age of smartphones, people looking at smartphones in bed or something, but 3.1%. Okay. So that's interesting. I wonder, none of these studies are that recent. The most recent one here is 2014, and before that, the most recent one is like, 2002? So I'd be interested to see more if there's anyone else, but I don't really know anyone else like this anyway. Presents across cultures and across mammalian species. Okay, so there's animals dealing with this shit too. Estimates ranging from 3.4% to 8.4% among high school students. Okay. Well, all right. So that was kind of interesting, I guess. Ultimately, reading all that mostly just told me stuff that I already knew, if I'm being honest. There wasn't any particularly major shockers in there. Yeah, I thought it would just be kind of interesting to check it out. I'm not inclined to believe that 8% of the population is dealing with this. Maybe it's more than it used to be. Maybe it's more than the 0.13% or whatever. Maybe it's closer to 1%. I don't know, but I do think I'm on the severe end of things, and it's always been a problem. It caused me, I'm sure that my performance all through school was affected by always being exhausted in school. And in turn, even working on homework at home, I was, maybe still sleepy from not getting good sleep the night before, and then was kind of half asleep during lectures in school. I'm sure that affected things. I know it's affected jobs. I know it's affected other goals I've cared about. I know it's almost no aspect of my life it hasn't affected to some extent. And one part of the article is definitely very true, is that things that temporarily work and kind of help get me back into a more healthy sleep schedule are usually extremely limited in the time frame they work in, and usually like slipping off for 1 day or 2 days in the maximum will cause everything to reset. So I don't know if anyone has any good ideas or suggestions, other than, I guess the best idea and suggestion would be to just start operating on like just say fuck it, just say fuck society, fuck normalcy, fuck fitting into the normal systems of the world, and just say absolutely fuck it and just start sleeping from 5 a.m. to noon every day, and find something where I could I don't know, I guess the normal I talked about getting a graveyard shift job, but I guess most people don't get up, do stuff for 8 hours, then go to work, right? Most people get up, spend an hour or at most usually getting ready, then go to work. So maybe find a job that is guaranteed to start no later than no earlier than like 2 p.m., right? And say to like the employer, like, mornings aren't an option for me. If you schedule me in the morning, I'll say nope. And if I'm fired for that, then tough shit. Right? So maybe I should try to find something where I can work from like 2 to 10 or something like that. But the ideal would be if I could maybe start doing something, start making some kind of money from like writing or something like that. Something I do strictly from home on a strictly my own schedule, and maybe like work on starting like it, maybe work, yeah, like maybe work the hours that I said, like do an afternoon, then maybe another like 3 or 4 hours kind of after midnight or something like that. That would leave time open in the evening so I could do normal, like go to the movies and stuff like that. And it would just be kind of weird because my equivalent of like dinner would, my like lunch would be other people's dinner. And what would I would just have that be my big meal for the day and just not eat anything at what would be my kind of dinner time, like 1 a.m. or something like that. Just eat like twice a day or something like that. But yeah, it's something this isn't a short-term issue. This is something I've been dealing with since the 90s. And I don't blame the internet entirely, because this is even pre-internet, just to a slim degree, because the internet probably exacerbated things. But yeah, this has been a very long-term issue and a very long-term frustration. I'm just kind of tired of fighting, because the fight never ends, right? It's like it was talked about in this Wikipedia article. You can always revert. It's a lifelong thing. I don't think there's any way to fix it permanently. And so it's like a daily kind of task, a daily chore. I always go into bedtime like kind of stressed out. Like, am I going to fall asleep at like 11 or midnight, or fuck, I would even take 1 a.m., or will it just not take? Because sometimes it just doesn't take. And if it doesn't take, then I can be screwed for weeks. So I don't know. Maybe a lot of my problems with restlessness and fuzzy-headedness and procrastination and other issues, maybe they would be solved if I just said, nope, not trying to fit into society anymore. I'm just going to go to bed when everyone else is, when the earliest of early birds are waking up, like that 4:30, 5 a.m. type of time, and start waking up, not in the afternoon, start waking up, a little before noon, noon, 11:30, something like that, Maybe I should say fuck it and just try to figure out a way to start doing that. It's in some ways not, I acknowledge it's not great and not ideal, but maybe it's more ideal to accept the issue and deal with the consequences later than just being engaged in a literal 365 night a year battle against my own like brain and my own rhythms and my own very DNA, because it's just it's just hard. I've just been basically failing at it my whole life, and it's fairly clear that I'm not one of the percentage of people who has a teen and gets better, because I'm 40 in a few years here and it's not gotten any better. And I don't know, I'm just tired of fighting it. I'm tired of dealing with it. Maybe I should just make a change, and maybe that'll kind of roll uphill, and fix some other issues in life, because I'm just tired of being tired.